What's going on, you guys? Indiana Harley guy back at you with another video today. Today what we're going to do is this amazing 2008 Suzuki Boulevard C50. We're going to take it for a ride and see how good of a beginner bike this is. Alright, let's swing our leg over this thing and hop on it. I'm going to go ahead and say this right here is a great little bike. Fire her up. This does have the neutral safety switch on it, so you do have to have the clutch held in order to start it. First time it's been started in about 3 or 4 months. Fired right up, no issues. So we're going to take this up to Lake Celinda up the road here, and we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about this bike. So we bought this bike, me and Crystal bought this bike for our stepson Jacob, and I have to say, in my opinion, I'm just going to go ahead and come out and say it, this is a great beginner's bike. It really is. It is small. I mean, it's not like stupid small. Like, it's got a fairly decent big bike feel, but it's also not heavy at all. This is an extremely light bike. I think this bike weighs in somewhere around the I want to say somewhere around the 580 pound mark, somewhere, maybe 600 tops. It is a 5-speed 800cc cruiser. We bought this just on the other side of Cincinnati about a year ago, well, last February, March, somewhere around that area, and I rode it all the way home. We bought it, I rode it home, didn't do anything to it, about 2.5 hours one way. Didn't have any issues with it whatsoever. I mean, it's not the greatest on the interstate. I mean, it'll do interstate speeds for sure. It'll do 75-80 miles an hour. But with it only having 5 gears, it is a little on the pegged out side running that fast. So you're not going to get the greatest gas mileage because of it. That being said, like me, I'm 5'7", a little on the shorter side for a guy, and I have no issues whatsoever flat-footing this bike. I wish that I could flat-foot my Road Glide as well as I can this bike. There's literally nothing done to this aftermarket, with the exception of these speakers down here, which are not even hooked up at the moment. But there's nothing aftermarket. This is a bone stock bike, head to toe, front to back, and it performs great. Do you need anything more than this whenever you're starting out learning to ride? That depends on who you ask. Me personally, this is my opinion on a first-time bike. If you're learning to ride, to buy your first bike. Ultimately, you know, you need to pick out what style of riding you want to do, whether that be more aggressive sport riding or long distance, whatever the case may be, and go from there. But one thing that I also recommend is buying a cheap bike, something small and easy to handle, just to learn on, to get to grasp the concept of riding a motorcycle on. That's what I did. And the bike that I bought was a 2005 Suzuki M50. Same thing as this, same engines and things like that, just the only difference was it's a little bit more of a sport cruiser than it is an actual cruiser. I knew I wasn't going to have that bike long term. I knew that going into it, and that's fine. Like, I had no issues learning on that bike. It was light and easy to maneuver, and the same thing is true with this bike. It'll go. I mean, it's not going to win any races, but you could achieve ramming speed fairly easily with this bike. Like, it's not gonna keep you in a situation that you're not going to be able to keep up with on the interstate. Like, it's got plenty of get up and go to where you can get on them on ramps, sling it on the interstate, no problem. The main thing is, like, this suspension, this bars, this does have an aftermarket Mustang seat on it. I forgot about that. That's the only upgrade this bike has. This bike is extremely comfortable. Like, and I'm, like I said earlier, I'm about 5'7". I weigh about 250 pounds, and I have no issues riding this bike. This bike is actually really comfortable to ride. Now, the longest I've ever had it, or I've ever ridden it, is when we bought it in Cincinnati and rode it home. And I didn't have any issues at all. I think we had to stop one time, but that was just to get gas. So, like, as far as a beginner's bike goes, if you want to get something cheap and easy to learn on, this is a good option for you, because you can pick them up dirt cheap all day long. You could pick up a damn near mint condition Suzuki Boulevard C50, mid-2000s. This is in 2008. And you can pick them up all day long for $2,500, $3,000 in almost perfect condition with fairly low miles. This has about 17,000 miles on it. You know, it's like anything else. You treat it right, it will it'll last you a while. And in my opinion, like, he didn't go wrong with this bike. My only complaint with him buying this bike is he's really tall. He is about 6'4", 6'5", and he's all legs, so he's got extremely long legs. So when he's riding this bike, it's kind of funny, because he kind of looks like a Shaquille O'Neal riding on a little mini bike, if you know what I'm saying. It's pretty humorous. But he wanted it because he wanted to have something that he could easily learn on, not nothing too heavy, not nothing too crazy, and not nothing too expensive. That way, if he were to lay it down or something like that, he's not laying down a $20,000 Harley Davidson or something like that. So that's why he decided to go ahead and get this. Now, he doesn't ride this very often. I don't think he's ridden this bike in close to 6 months. That being said, I am cruising at 60 miles an hour right now. I am having no issues. If I wanted to, I could drop it a gear and get up going to 80 miles an hour fairly easily. I mean, no issues whatsoever. I just got up to 75 fairly quickly. It'll do what you need it to do. I definitely recommend this as a good starter bike. Is it the best one out there? I don't know. I don't know, because I ride all the time, but that doesn't mean I've ridden every single motorcycle out there. There might be other bikes out there that would suit people better for their first bike. But you can't go wrong with this bike, because this is one of those bikes that, even if you were to get it strictly for learning purposes, like, you can easily make this bike into a long distance bike if that's what you wanted to do with it. Like, they come pretty much set up. You can travel across the country with. There's people that do it all the time. We bought this bike over on the other side of Cincinnati, on the east side of Cincinnati, from a dealership, Racer's Edge, I believe is what they were called. Paid, I think, $2,500 for this bike and rode it to 2.5 hours home. So if that tells you anything about the testament to these bikes, and we weren't sure how good this bike was going to be. You know, they just had it. He liked it. We bought it, and yeah, the rest is history. Paid $2,500 for it, give or take, and rode it all the way home, 2.5 hours from the other side of Cincinnati that same day. Didn't trailer it, hopped on it, rode it, no issues. Made it all the way home, no issues with it whatsoever. I need to learn to slow down over these speed bumps. You know, even though it is December, it's actually December 23rd, which, by the way, thank you, Mother Nature. I know it looks gloomy and rainy, and it has been a little bit today, but it's still 50 degrees. And in Indiana, in southern Indiana, if you get a 50 or 60 degree day right around Christmas time, you take advantage of it, because you don't see that very often. You very rarely see days like today, as warm as it is, in the middle of December in southern Indiana. Ask anybody who's from around here. They'll tell you the same thing. Alright, so let's discuss this bike just a little bit. As I explained earlier, this is a 2008 Suzuki Boulevard C50. It is a small entry-level cruiser, 800cc. I'm just going to go ahead and come out and say this. This is a great bike. Do I think it's the perfect beginner bike? Maybe for somebody, maybe not for somebody else. I don't know. I just know that I would like to have had this bike when I was learning how to ride. I had this bike's little twin brother, well, not twin brother, but I had this bike's brother, a 2005 M50, which is essentially the same bike. It's just more of a muscle cruiser, kind of like the Yamaha VMAX or, things like that. It was more that style, but essentially it was the same bike. And this is way more comfortable on the back. The riding position's better. The suspension's better on this than the M50 was, at least from my experience. In my opinion, this is a great beginner's bike, and let me tell you why. It's lightweight. It's around about 600 pounds, give or take. It's lower to the ground. See, I'm 5'7". I have a 28-inch inseam, and as you can see, I could very easily flat foot this bike, and I am on a little bit of a slope going this way, but I mean, I can easily flat foot this bike, no problem. And like for me, that's a big thing, because on my road glide, I have 12-inch shocks on the back, 12-inch Legends. I still cannot completely get flat-footed on that bike. I just can't do it. I've tried many times, but I don't want to lower the suspension any more than it already is. I could go with 11.5s. I could go with a low-down seat, but I like being that higher up in the air, that much higher up in the air. It feels like I get more stability. And I apologize, there is a flock of geese flying over me right now. That's it. Go south for the winter. You ruined my video. This is a really good bike. I don't know if they come stock with this windshield, but this windshield works great. No issues with it. They usually will come with this sissy bar. This did come with saddlebags when we bought it, but they were broke, so we took them off. The front fender up here was broke, so we took that off and never have replaced it. Other than that, this bike is 110% perfectly ready to hop on it and drive all day, ride all day, 200, 300, 400 miles if you want to. I have no issues or no problem saying that this bike is capable of doing it, because trust me, it is. As I mentioned earlier, when we bought it, it was about 2.5 hours away, just on the other side of Cincinnati, Ohio. And we went there, paid for it at the dealership we bought it from, $2,500, and rode it home that same day. So that's testament to it. And it's only got a little over 17,000 miles on it, which, you know, if anybody knows anything about these Suzuki engines, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Honda, these things are, especially back, 20 years ago, these engines were borderline indestructible. Like, they're almost bulletproof. They would run forever. And in my opinion, this is a hell of a bike. It really is. So if you want something that you want to learn to ride on, but you're worried about it being too heavy or too tall, or you want something that's going to be easy to maneuver until you get the hang of riding a motorcycle, this might be something to look into, because you could pick these up all day long in damn near mint condition for $3,000 or less. I see them on Facebook Marketplace all the time for $2,000, $2,500, and those are really good bikes. Like, you can go there and buy it, ride across the country, be perfectly fine. So they're a cheap bike. So if you're worried about something, laying it down or scratching it up, wrecking it, something like that, you'd rather not spend the money on an expensive Harley or Indian or something like that, or a brand new bike in general. You'd rather learn on something cheaper. That way, if you were to mess it up, you wouldn't feel as bad about it. This might be an option for you, because in my opinion, this is coming from somebody who's on the shorter side, especially with a short inseam. I have a 28-inch inseam. I have no problems flat-footing this bike. It's extremely light, round about 600 pounds. It's really nimble, easy to maneuver, easy to flat foot. It's really comfortable. The suspension on this thing is great. I love the suspension on this. And, if all those things is what you're looking for, or even a couple of those things, this might be an option for you to go out and get. But that being said, Be sure to look out next week for our video. It's right now, it is the day before Christmas Eve. It is December 23rd. It is about 50 degrees out, which if you're from this area of the country, southern Indiana, you know in the middle of December, a 50-degree day is a blessing, and you're going to want to take full advantage of it. Tomorrow is going to be even better, Christmas Eve. Thankfully, we don't have any plans with family, so it is going to be sunny and 65 degrees here in southern Indiana, and we are going to take full advantage of that. We're hopping on our bikes, me and Crystal, and we are going to ride somewhere. I don't know where, but we're probably going to put down a couple 100 miles tomorrow, and you guys are going to come along for that ride. But for now, this is going to be it. Thanks for watching, guys. And again, if you're looking for a good beginner's bike, these Boulevard C50s might be something to look at because they're great. So if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button, click that subscribe button, and as always, ride safely.